So, you ever feel just completely swamped, like drowning in opinions and analysis?
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere, isn't it? Every alert, every headline, someone
Yes.
telling you exactly what it all means.
Yeah, and why? It's exhausting trying to sort through all the definitive takes.
It really is. And, it's a very human thing to grasp for that kind of certainty, especially when things feel confusing or unstable.
Right.
We see that reflected in the sources we're looking at today, excerpts from Naming and Motion and also Resisting Stillness. They both kind of zero in on this reflex.
This reflex to just name things, slap a label on.
Exactly, to categorize, to explain it away. Think about, the search for the problem or the single cause behind everything.
Or the system that explains it all. We hear that a lot. We try to find that neat box.
Mm-hmm. But what if, and this is the core question these texts raise, what if that very urge, that need to pinpoint and explain, is actually part of the issue itself?
You mean the explaining is the problem?
Yeah.
Or gets in the way?
Sort of, yeah. What if the reality we're actually in, especially right now, just resist being fixed like that? What if it's fundamentally more like motion, fluid?
It's like trying to grab fog, maybe.
Oh.
The harder you clench your fists.
The less you hold.
Oh.
Spot on. The sources use this idea of stillness in naming versus a world made of motion.
Stillness in naming. Okay.
So by constantly trying to create stability through explanations, through naming things, are we actually building this kind of, well, they call it an architecture of stasis, a false stability?
In a world that's actually flowing.
Precisely. One text says, the world is flowing like weather now.
Weather. Okay, I get that. Constant change, unpredictable. You can't really nail it down.
Right. And trying to force that kind of flowing reality into our old rigid boxes, well, the source says it's like folding it into paper shapes that once worked but now just tear.
Ooh, that's a good image. The shapes just break apart because the reality is too dynamic.
Exactly. And it leads to that feeling of frustration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the old methods aren't quite working.
So it's crucial to get this deep dive. It isn't about offering another interpretation, is it? Or a better label?
No, not at all. The invitation here from these sources is much simpler. It's just to notice.
Notice the urge.
Yeah. Notice that habit we all have, that sort of automatic reaction, they call it the trance, of trying to freeze things that are moving, using static words and ideas.
The trance of explanation.
Which brings us to that really powerful metaphor they use, the frozen river.
Ah, yes. Tell us about that one.
Well, the idea is when you try to freeze a river to understand its path, you no longer see the river.
You just see the ice.
Only a broken sculpture of its motion. It captures it perfectly, I think. Our attempt to analyze by stopping the flow actually stops us from seeing the flow itself.
We end up studying the ice sculpture instead of the living river.
Precisely. We lose the very thing we want to understand, its movement, its life.
So maybe the goal isn't always to intellectually grasp everything.
Maybe not. Maybe sometimes the insight comes from just watching the current, experiencing it.
The sources frame this whole reflection as just a small breadcrumb, right, for people feeling that.
Yeah.
That frustration.
Yeah, that sense of straining, the ache, as they put it, of trying to know what can only be entered.
Entered, not explained.
Right. So maybe as you go about your day, just hold this lightly, not as another piece of analysis to chew on.
More like feeling the air change, sensing the weather.
Exactly. Just a quiet noticing. This wasn't about mapping the river, just maybe feeling its current for a moment.
A different way to pay attention, perhaps, just observing the flow instead of trying to build a dam.
Something like that. Just witnessing, perhaps, is sometimes enough.